So, back to our little class stuff over here. So in order for change to occur, going by Mr. Cotter's example, there are 8 stages. So this is what we're going to talk about. The first stage is establishing a sense of urgency. So if you don't have that sense of urgency, nothing's going to change. And like I said, there's there are things that are going on. We're going to talk about different ways of doing business, documenting. A lot of the things you're already doing in your head, but maybe not as formal. So we're asking you to change a little bit. E-Construction and Alex and that guy coalition is going to ask you to change. So there are these things that are happening. I think you guys are getting laptops. That's a change. So there are these changes that are happening. So step 1 is to establish a sense of urgency. So why do you guys have a sense of urgency? Oh, so here's the answer. Managing a budget is not part of the 8 stages. So the number 1 error in making a change is allowing complacency, which means when you walk out the door, you don't do anything different. So we need to establish the sense of urgency. You guys as leaders are the ones that are going to communicate that, paint the picture, create that vision, talk about the home run and the crowd going wild. Change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. So again, it doesn't come naturally. Yes, you're going to have the eds that will dictate the change if you don't do it willingly, right? But we don't want to do that because that's not sustainable. You guys have to be part of the coalition that wants the change. And what I hear from George, and I have to share a little story. I know when George started, I kind of met with him and said, so what are you looking at? And he's like, I want to make a change. He really wanted to create that environment for you guys. And I know that he did, I don't know what retreat you guys did. And so he's putting those tools out there for you. This is one of those other tools because he wants this to be a place where you guys really thrive and enjoy being a part of what's happening. So, what's your sense of urgency? That's a real question. I'm really asking. So what do you guys think? What's your sense of urgency? Your urgency, not my urgency, not Carter's urgency, not Art's urgency. What do you guys see? Some of you guys have been around forever. Do you see things changing? Some of you are ready to retire. What's your sense of urgency?
Art, can I share what you said to me?
You're only supposed to share what you know. You can't share other people's urgency. Okay. Then maybe Art should share it.
I'm going to that's why I'm giving him the chance. I'm giving him the chance right now.
Okay, Art, you have to share now because Kaha'a called you out.
I called Kaha a lot of names, so I don't remember.
Yes. Because I have such a long relationship with Art and I believe in Art, I only hear the good stuff. And I heard Art say many times over, Art, you said once, your sense of urgency, at least I tied to it, was your desire to leave a legacy.
To retire? Is that where you're going with this?
It used to be about 3-4 years ago. But Art, you share with me if you want to expand your legacy to share and embed within the existing team the things you've learned over the last 20-something years.
Expand upon that, Art.
Is that sounding accurate, Art?
Yeah, my sense of urgency is really to take us back when I first started with the state in the 80s. We had a different culture. It was more of a shared leadership where my boss and his boss above them were very approachable, and they were into teaching. And so as young engineers, we learned fast. And we got exposed to a lot of stuff. Us dinosaurs, yeah. So I want to go back there because we went through a phase where that went on the wayside. It was more of a blame game kind of thing, and the culture changed. I want to go back to, we enjoyed coming to work. I mean, back then, we took like payment is on cutoff dates the 15th. We have 5 working days to process payment. So we would be at the field office, it's the idea of giving blood, sweat, and tears. So after midnight, making sure that payment was done on time.
You did that too?
right?
Yeah, we had
used to
dot
do
matrix
those-
printers. They took forever to print.
No, we used to do those things because, not because we were told to, it's because we felt we had obligations that, hey, you pay your contractor. I keep preaching that, you want to stay in good relations with the contractor, pay him on time. Once you stop paying him, then how do you expect him to be cooperative? Right? So we used to do those things because we just did. We didn't think about it. We stayed midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, making sure that payments got out in time.
Well, and so creating that environment, that safe environment, you're talking about everybody helping and working together and not being blamed. So that was the Four Seasons versus the Caesar's Palace, yeah?
So,
Okay, so that's this one person's sense of urgency, basically to be able to leave that legacy, to be able to do that before you retire. Anybody else? What else? Only one person has a sense of urgency. Nobody else has a sense of urgency.
How about the people that gotta stick around?
And deal with all that after art is gone. Do you want to deal with the environment of the blame game, or do you want to deal with an environment that is more collaborative, cooperative, where you feel safe to make mistakes and safe to succeed and helped to succeed? Any sense of urgency whatsoever. Otherwise, I'm going to call on 5 people. So start. Hurry up. Daryl, I think I heard you say something.
That's a negative technique that I got Simon was saying, what you're doing right now.
Right. So you don't want that environment. So that's a sense of urgency. Get out of the environment where you're put on the spot. Excellent.
Saying how similar that was to.
Right. So we don't want to create that environment. Awesome comment. So don't put our employees on the spot. That's a sense of urgency.
How about partnering with contractors? We used to do that. We don't do that anymore.
Partnering with contractors. So going back, I got to give Daryl some tickets because I put him on the spot and created a negative work environment. So I got to appreciate him. Make it rain.
Hug after this, right, Kai?
No.
Everybody?
No, we're not hugging. So creating a partnership, again, versus intimidate. Oh, that's a good one. Intimidate. Don't intimidate. That's what I did. Yep. I'm good at that. What's that? What? Huh? Nothing. Okay, so creating a partnership with our contractors. What is the urgency of that? So part of this is, why do we have to do it now?
Because if we don't partner with them, they don't have a sense of ownership of what they do. They just go in, do the job, walk away. But if they're vested in the project, they'll do a better job.
Right. So your sense of urgency is to help your project go smoother by partnering, because then that makes everything smoother.
Yeah, and
you
then,
get more
the final
done.
product is better. The public, instead of just rushing through getting it done, and then there's all these loose ends or things we miss.
And then you get very combative,
Yeah.
and then it's more work because you got to
But that
document
kinda
more.
ties into hurry up. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're a hurry up person. Yeah.
I think.
Wait, were you?
people
I
are,
forget.
and I think we're it's dictated to us.
Right.
Deadlines are hurry up.
Yeah. Because the pipeline, does that pipeline is? Is that a sense of urgency for anyone here in this room? Do you guys know what that is? Yes? Kaha'a knows what it is. So, and then I'm going to go through what the construction engineers went through, because we went through this exercise with them. Again, I would challenge you guys to go through it as a district to understand what your sense of urgency is. Yes?
Yes, if you guys will allow me, I'll share our sense of urgency because it actually relies on you guys to our partnership. In our office, we've been through a lot of these same kind of training, and for us, the sense of urgency is the realization that several $100 million funnel through our office to you guys, and for us, that's a big opportunity for you guys to make an impact on the state. I've heard Ed say this over and over, and I've never said much. But it's the same sense of urgency for us, that if we sit on something too long, and don't get me wrong, some of you know I've been guilty of maybe taking a few weeks to get to something.
Or months, sorry.
But
Be authentic, make it real, make it real.
but in all honesty, we recognize that the work we do, which is honestly in partnership with you guys, makes a difference. Literally hundreds of million dollars, 300 plus this past year, comes to our office. That means in some small way we have our hand on it, but in a huge way you guys have your hand on it. So like, we believe that together that we can impact the community, honestly. I mean, that's our why in my office. I've been sharing similar messages. I put my staff through, bi-weekly I would make them watch 10 to 20 minute videos, one or two of Simon Sinek for at least a year straight before I pulled the videos and started the interactive discussion. But it is because I truly believe that the why is important, and for us the why is in partnership with you guys. If we can get that down right, we can actually make a difference. Without partnering with you guys, right, the state, because you guys are the hands-on mechanism for making a difference, not us. So now we value the partnership with you guys. That's our why, because in creating a good partnership with you guys, we may have a positive impact on our communities and efficient use of those dollars. I know it sounds kind of cheesy, kind of high level, but it is what, for the past 2 years, I've asked my team to do, and that's why I sit here. Quite honestly, Blaine and I was just talking, and this might be premature, but Blaine and I was considering asking Kai to deliver that very same message to my team. Because what you guys are learning, I want my team to be on the same page as you guys in terms of the mission, right? And so we got to put our money where our mouth is, our time where our words is, and that kind of thing. So I truly believe that your guys' why is real. We believe in your why. We made it our own, and that's why I sit here hoping to continue to make our partnership better.
And so just for DAGs and harbors, Federal Highways provides a majority of the funding that goes to the highway capital budget. 150?
About 200. 170 used to be, with about an opportunity for up to 40 million a year in redistribution, so we call it 200.
200.
100 million last year in ER. And that's not my team's money by any stretch of the imagination. The way we see it, it's your guys' money, and we just help you deal with the federal string. I would say your guys is meaning the state of Hawaii, and that's one of the messages that help with the why. It's not our money, it's the taxpayer.
Well, and I mean, during the assessment, one of the interesting things, because having been formal Federal Highways, understanding the money, and does anybody understand the material certification issue that occurred within the last couple months? Raise your hands if you know what I'm talking about. Like 2 people. So the reason through the assessments, a lot of people didn't feel like they had anything to do with money, with the pipeline, and budget, schedules, things like that. So as we went further down talking to everybody, they didn't understand how they played into this. So they didn't get the why. So what Kaha'a is talking about, and Ed will talk about in December, is getting more money for our communities. Because they have motions that go with this. So this is be the best to get more money for our communities. Okay, so you'll learn that in December, all right? Yeah, you got it. You're going to be on the video. So getting more money, when he says getting more of your money, he actually means our money. When we pay taxes to the federal government, it goes to Washington, and we want to get the money back in Hawaii. So that's part of what we're talking about. The sense of urgency is that the pipeline and these buzzwords that you'll hear and the ER work gives our state, our community, more money to provide for our transportation system. That means our families and our roads and our bridges and things that fail during ER, we get that money back. I believe, and this is where Marshall and Ed will talk about numbers, but last year you might have got $30 million more. So the goal is to be the best, to improve your infinite game so that Kaha'a and his group give us back more of the money that's ours in the first place. So it's our money that we want to get back. And through proficiency, through churning out projects, through making sure we get the things done and closed out, we get more money. So in about August or September, because things weren't done the way they should, and again, we're cleaning up sins of the past, everybody's doing a lot better job, but we always have somewhere else to go. We always have something else we can do better. The state lost about $12 million, $11 million. $11 million was taken out of your coffers and went back to the federal government because of lack of technical and proficient issues that happened maybe within the last 10 years. So unfortunately, their job is to make sure the that the federal dollars are spent appropriately and in accordance with your policies and procedures. And when we were on Kauai, one of the guys said, well, this new issue that came up about material certification, and Blaine kind of said, well, wait a minute, we've been working on this for 20 years. So it's not a new issue. And he said, well, this issue, and I would challenge you that that is not the only issue. Change orders could be another issue. There are a lot of other issues that the federal government can poke at. And that's why we want to make sure there's a level technical expertise for everybody, and that's one of the sense of urgency. So I would just put it as funding, a sense of urgency. So we talk about proficiency and passing on that legacy, but bottom line is you're here to provide for the transportation system of the community, and it's your responsibility to make sure we keep those federal dollars. That's part of your job, and I hope that's part of your why. Because everybody that when we talked about the assessments, they knew they were here for the community, to keep the community safe, to provide those roads, to provide those bridges. That's your why, at least what I heard. So making sure we keep the money and we get the money and we get more money should also be part of that why. And I hope it's part of the sense of urgency. Otherwise, Kaha'a, although he's smiling right now, he may come back not smiling and taking more money, and we don't want that to happen. I'm just kidding, but...
One thing she mentioned, there's been a couple years where we didn't get any money for redistribution. Ed put a stop to that. He was like, we're going to get more money. He did all the things that he needed to do, and he started getting more money. Last 2 years, I believe, was 10 million in redistribution. So it was about 10 million.
Yeah,
the community is up to 40. So when Ed talks about get more money, so what is it? Do better, repeat? Do better.
Be the best to get more money for our community.
Yeah. There's truth to that. In the middle picture, Ed went from $0 multiple years, and even he's avoided giving back money that we've done in the past through various measures. He's done well at that, through you guys, of course. 10 million, but there's an opportunity up to 40. So when he talks about get more money, as we perform better, as all these stats the Feds measure, perform better, there's opportunity to increase the 10 to 40, and I know that's what Ed wants. Mm-hmm. That's just one of the ways he's saying get more money. There's many others. He's got a lot of big plans, which we stand behind. But the great news is, I stand behind our division, the Feds. We definitely stand behind guys like Blaine and Art who work with you guys, because really the good news is that the Fed requirements are no different than the state requirements. So the things that they know to be, like that you guys will be training on, is all we look for. There's no like special federal.
Because it's about following your policies and best practices.
Your guys' whatever Art and you guys' leaders decide is their policy, we typically support that, and that's all we look for. So it isn't some magic you'll have to learn. It's just when you guys, as you guys are already doing, come together and be one. I know it sounds cheesy. That's all that there is to it. There's no magic. Just working together and being efficient with each other. That's all there is.
Okay, so that sense of urgency, we got to do it now. We got to do it now. So wait a minute, that's the wrong way. Is that the wrong way? Oh, I didn't go through it. Okay, so that's some of it. I know in a little bit we're going to talk about the vision and the strategy. So I would challenge you guys to say, is this your why? Are there other things that are your why? So the guiding coalition. So the next step is to have those people hanging out with you, ready to make this change. On that parabola that we were talking about, those are your early adopters. Those are the people that are going to be there helping you push this through. So for the REs, you may have a couple project engineers that you see. For lead inspectors, same thing. Why are they going to use the iPad instead of going to the computer to enter their diaries? Part of that, you got to teach them and help them. So I want you to start thinking about, and you can jot it in your notes, who are those people? No? Why are we shaking our head? No. There got to be at least 2 people. So you got to think of those people.
Can you change the verb from instead of guiding coalition to who would be your champions?
Champions, exactly. It's the same, yeah.
Easier.
Okay. Change that, make a note. Kristen, excellent.
Last presentations. It doesn't really matter.
We're going to have to come back. We'll have to review it and we'll have to say, where are you at and where are you at? And then, yeah. So can you guys think of a couple people? 1 people, half a person? Anyone?
Art.
Art? Okay, so that go down, not up. So one of the things that I heard, Marvin, in some of the other presentations was, why do we need a guiding coalition? Because the senior managers are telling us. So why do you think that is? Senior manager's telling you, Art's talking about it, he sent out his email, you guys are talking about it in your RE meeting. So why isn't that good enough? Buy-in. Buy-in? He gets a ticket, but you're not saying you don't want to.
Lower the price, 50 cents.
Okay, I'll give you 2 tickets just for that.
Is this space right here, yeah? So once you get past this, then the rest will come.
So if you don't have those people that are willing to make this change with you, the change is not going to stick. And that's where he's saying the buy-in. If you don't get the buy-in, it's not going to stick. Okay, so developing a vision and a strategy. So again, we're going through the steps. I don't know if you're following along, but we had 1, sense of urgency. We talked about that. And then we're going to take pictures and we'll send this stuff to Art so he can follow up with you guys in your RE meetings. Your guiding coalition. So when you're sitting down, think of a couple people that are going to help you with this. And then developing a vision and a strategy. There's the other one. So you heard George. You'll hear Ed and Marshall. The vision part, and this, be the best, get more money for our communities. It's kind of what we heard throughout the various sessions. And then, of course, the little dance that went with it just kind of popped up. So what are the impacts to your staff as this is going to happen? So the vision, we talked about that scary picture. Do we want that scary picture? We want that happy picture. But as you're doing this, I want you to think about how this is going to affect you, because some of you guys are the staff. I heard assistant this, assistant that, but even Marvin with Art. All of you guys are part of this shared leadership. So what do you think is going to happen? What are the impacts going to be? Anyone? Anyone at all? Resistance! Yes! Who will be most affected? I want you to think about who will be most affected and how will they receive change? Resistance. I don't want to do this, right? So has anybody seen this little curvy thing before? So this is a grief cycle. So as you go through grief, change is just like grief. And people will go through the cycle. And the goal is for information and communication to start at the beginning. That's what George said. So at first it's denial, avoidance, confusion, shock, fear. And then there's anger, frustration. I don't want to do this. This is anxiety. And then they get depressed. I cannot believe you're making me do this. I don't want to do this. I'm going to the union. And then they'll say, well, maybe I won't go to the union. Maybe we can work this out. And then acceptance. So at the very beginning, it's important to provide the information and communication. So when I talk about the pipeline, we talk about more money. What we learned from the assessments is you guys didn't really understand all of that and what's going on, which is why Ed will be here. This is why Marshall's going to talk to you guys, through George, through Art and Mike. Everybody understand why you're doing these things, why you're doing it, what you believe in, why are you doing your jobs, how does that affect the schedule and time and change order and all the specific little things that you are going to be asked to do, and then you're going to be asked to do more and more of it in a different way with e-construction. So you want to get people through this. So the information communication, kind of where we're at right now, to make sure. Then Art's going to be there with his empathy and emotional support and says, I feel your pain. I feel the pain too. That's not how you're suck it up. He's going to practice empathy. And then providing the guidance and direction to be able to move forward and get through that grief cycle. And you need to go through the cycle as quickly as possible, because everybody will go through that cycle. And of course we have our sense of urgency. So what do you need to do? Clearly define the change and align that with your business goals. So going back to core values, and I think I heard before, we haven't rolled this out, and we're going to do it really quickly because I know I'm running out of time. But the core values of the organization are ask it. Ask it. Division, highway division core values. Highway division core values. So George had mentioned the maintenance. I know that the REs were working on something as well. We've talked to every district about making that real to themselves. You may have specifics. So ask it, ASCIT, just so you know what this is, because we're going to be talking about it and tying things back to that. So A, does anybody have an idea of what A is? Except Art. What was the first one? Art. Art is the first one. Everybody listens to Art. Exactly. Art. So the first one, obviously, accountability is the first one. So listening to Art. Accountability. S is the second one. What's the S?
Sickles.
Sickles! That's right! Sickles, it stands for safety, yes! Okay, so what's the C? Oh, George talked about it, community, yes! See, Harbors guys know. Community, that's what George talked about, creating that community. That's what Art echoed, right? We want to get back to the point where we have that shared team philosophy. What's I? Innovation! That's Mr. Alex and their team and how they're rolling out Faxware. Everybody's excited about Faxware? Yes, Scott is excited. Yeah. So, and then the last one is T. Trust. Good one, but wrong. T? Team. Yay! You got to run over there, Kristen. Teamwork. So, Marshall, yes.
When was these adopted?
Today. We did. Today.
We did.
Uh-huh.
Did everybody hear that we just adopted these today?
So what's interesting to me, we're going back to communication. When we started working with Highway C, they talked about the draft values. And then when I talked to Marshall, he said, you understand what our core values are, right? I said, well, is that the ASCIT? He goes, yeah. I said, okay. Bam, core values. So this may be the first time that you're hearing of it, because, and we actually had this discussion on Kauai, because they're saying, well, what about the mission statement and what about the vision? I said, we're in the development of all that. But one thing that I've heard concretely from Marshall and senior management, and we discussed from April on, was these core values. So through the assessment and through what we're talking about, we're tying them back to the core values. And nobody's stopped me, so that's what we're doing. How's that? And because when we talked to the district engineers, we laid out the assessment. And have you guys seen the assessment? No? Well, you guys wouldn't have, but you guys, well, so the assessment, did you email it? Okay, Art still has it. But it is going to be on our wiki site. Do we want to mention the wiki site?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Do you want-
Actually, this is kind of Patrick's idea. Like, I don't know if you remember bringing that up during the
Yeah.
assessments.
So we will be rolling out a wiki site that'll have these tools, the videos. Well, we got to see how the videos come out, but there'll be something on there from a video standpoint. We have captured Ed speaking, Marshall speaking, and Harry dancing. So all of that is going to be in the videos. I'm sure we'll have to get their consent first or something, but the tools will be on the wiki site. So that was one thing that came out of the assessments. And instead of necessarily having those manuals, and we'll talk more about the manuals when we get to the technical content, it's going to be on the site. So you have a resource for you to go to be able to find these things, eventually best practices, eventually examples, but for sure we'll have this. And we will have core values. And Marshall talks about core values every time he's spoken to the districts. So, excellent question. Now is the answer. All right, so why is change required? We talked about that, but we'll talk about it a little bit more, and then what do we need to change? So those are some of the things where Kaha'a talked about the technical proficiencies, and Ed will talk about things as well. So there's a lot of change that's brewing, and that's why we just want to make sure you're prepared for it, that you have understood how to implement it, because you're all leaders. You're part of that team. So, unfortunately, management was not here today, but George was. So what did you get out of his vision? Anything? Bueller? One thing.
Be a role model.
Be a role model. Oh, bam! Wow! I didn't even know that was like that.
I know, they have this slide in front of them.
So this was another thing that came out of the discussion, has been repeated, is changing that stigma of being a state worker. That people want to have that, they want to speak with pride when they're part of DOT. And I have to share this DAGS example, because one of the guys came up and was talking to us later, and he goes, man, if DOT is really like this, I want to work for DOT. I was like, wow. See? People do want to work for DOT.
Honest question.
Huh?
English.
Yeah.
If DOT is.
We're doing it.
When?
I'm just.
Oh yeah, okay. No, he was like, are we really, I've gotten a lot of that, are we really doing this? And I'm like, yeah, we're really doing this. And we've had the opportunity and the blessing to be able to talk to the CEs with Highway C, through the DEs, through Marshall, through Ed, all the way up and down. So like George said, it's a process, but everybody is supportive. So if there are obstacles, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, they're all ready to address it. It may not be the solution that you want, but I believe the transparency in the solution and understanding and hopefully empathizing with the solution will take place. So more of that communication happens ups and down. So no more having business as usual, because times continue to change. Technology, transparency, there's more of a demanding public now. So these are all things that are driving the changes that you guys are facing. Legal challenges, change in the law. So this is one of the things Kaha'a is bringing up, right? The POP dates. Does anybody know what a POP date is?
Oh, well, yeah.
Marvin looks like he knows. I hear this chuckling. I know Willie knows. He's just not saying it. So this is one of the legal things that changed in order for you guys to move your projects along a little more, and so that federal money wasn't getting hung up for decades. So legal challenges are making your business change. And then we've talked about saving time in the long run. So when we have tools like e-construction, we can pull things out, we can have a dashboard, we can have more transparency. But honestly, between now and there, it's going to take work. I don't know if you're going to save time so much as change the way you do business, but it's basically saving time on individual tasks so that you can do more work. That's exciting. So here are some other things. Make a note. So yeah, anyway. Contributing to the community, so that's another thing that George talked about. Yeah. And attracting talent to your organization. So again, what I always hear is, we need to pay more. But you guys know that you're not here for the pay, right? I mean, every single person knows that. So you need to find more people that believe what you believe. You need to find more people that want that lifestyle, but at the same time want to do a great job for their communities. They want to get more money so that you can do more work. Building an open shared leadership model for DOT. Art had mentioned that. And what else? Was there anything else that you guys got from your management vision? So this brainstorming that we just went through, the construction engineers went through this. I can't remember when. Early October. We started in April and May. And so they've gone through this. So again, with Art, I know that he's talked about you guys going through this exercise within the district. So now we're going to communicate that change and that vision. Are you ready? Are you ready to hit the home run? To communicate the vision and why you want to do this? Why are we going to make ourselves miserable? Does any of this sound familiar? Vision? What vision? So this was the Marvin where he was talking about the pessimism. Something about customers, partners, is just a bunch of yapping. So this is what we don't want to happen. We want to make sure that the communicating of the vision is clear and concise, and it's going to take work. Leadership takes work. So, from unsuccessful change, how many of you guys have been part of some kind of change and it didn't go well? Chris, since these guys are talking all the time, what were some outcomes of that?
Distrust, disenchantment, disillusionment with what their roles are going to be.
Right, right. So a lot of pessimism, and that's where when we, even in, like I said, at the classes, during the assessment, they're like, we're spending all this time, but nothing's going to change. I'm excited to be part of this because I have been involved with DOT and I've seen the things with DOT, and I've never seen the organization set up with so much hope for success as I have now. Because you have people in Art's position that want to leave a legacy. You have Blaine that is willing to do the work and help us get through this change process. You have Ed that's pushing, Marshall that's willing to address things, and all the DEs, and you heard from George. All the DEs feel like they're ready. Every single one we've talked to about the assessments. And they wanted to share the assessments with everybody because they felt like if we didn't talk about where we were at, there was nowhere to go. There was no way to move forward. So transparency was very big in why we changed or shared the assessments. So if you haven't gotten a copy, eventually when we roll out the wiki site, which should be right after your class, we'll have that up hopefully, and it'll have most of the stuff on it. It's a work in progress, and Kristen's heading that charge. But we heard a lot of this. I heard, yeah, this is going to fail, and we're just waiting for it to fail. But we will not let it fail. So, in order to communicate that goal, we are going to watch yet another video. Yay! Goals. So when we communicate that vision and that goal, everybody knows where we're going. So that's part of what we're doing right now. So how are we going to communicate the vision? What do you guys think?
Training.
Training! Yay! That's what we're doing right now. Yeah. So, like Mike said, have we heard this stuff before yet? Maybe not so much, but we're going to. And like I said, the senior managers, Ed, Marshall, everybody has been involved and will be here in December when we do the actual technical stuff to talk to you more about their vision. And I kind of think of us, I don't necessarily think of us as trainers so much as change management support consultants, where we're going to help you through this process, from a technical aspect on some of the technical things we'll talk about in December, but some of this other stuff and how you can communicate that and get your team to do that. So the answer, there is no right or wrong answer to this one, even though
You look right at me, but go ahead.
I always understand the direction of the organization, our core values and our vision, and where we are headed as an organization. I kind of wanted to throw this out there because I want to measure it. I want to see, do you guys see more or understand more as we go through this process? So this last piece, because what? I was skipping it. Yeah. Training. Okay, anyone else? Yeah, I'm skipping it. Training, like I said, Ed and those guys will be coming to talk, and we're going to do more of that. This last piece, because the other ones we're going to talk about when we come back. So during every contract administration round, we're going to talk a little bit about visions and goals so that we see how things are progressing or not progressing and how we can support that change. So this last thing we're going to talk about is empowering broad-based action. And so again, in our question, managing the budget for required change is not part of our change management. So barriers for empowerment. So these are some of the things that may happen, and I would encourage you, and I believe when Marshall and Ed, and I think I heard George a little bit, when there are those obstacles that come up, they're here to support, maybe not do everything that you want to do, but at least help you understand the decisions that are being made so we can provide that communication. But if there are barriers, so I know some of the things that came up, although I haven't talked to Art about it, I know during assessments there was equipment issues, and some of those things I believe are being addressed right now. So that would be human resources systems or tools making it difficult to do your jobs. The managers unknowingly discouraging actions aimed at implementing the new vision. So this is a cyclical cycle where if something's happened, let's get addressed and let's come back and regroup. And then, of course, the training part that Daniel brought up, the lack of skills that undermine the action. So that's really the focus, besides this change management part, is the technical skills. The other things, we can act as a sounding board and make sure that either Highway C, because we've gotten requests from the district on some structural things that they wanted to see support from Highway C. There may be those other things within your district, so make sure you're communicating those. At the end of this first CA 100, we're going to have another anonymous survey, so that if you didn't bring it up, you at least have that other venue where you can provide feedback. So formal structures make it difficult. I mean, that's like the definition of government, right? The bureaucracy that it takes to do certain things. But we want to try to address it. I know that you've got your wiki hiring process that's going on. I think, again, everybody's been supportive in finding ways to work through the obstacles. So in order for employees to understand the vision and make it reality, all of these barriers have to be addressed. And then, of course, like the training part is the part we're doing in December that's going to go through some technical things that will help you address that. So the H stages, again, we have this continuous circle that we're talking about where we're planning, we're doing, we're checking back, which is the COCUA review, we're acting again, and then planning. So this is a video we don't have time for. We'll probably address it in a future session, but you have the title, so if you want to do some homework and look at it and kind of see what that's about. It really is about connecting with people. So now we start talking about, we talked about the drivers, we're talking about the vision and why change occurs, and now it's about that day-to-day learning people, understanding people, and really connecting with people. And we heard that through Simon's first video where he talked about the millennials and the technology, but really it's a lot of the way we've changed in how we do business. Sometimes, you know, back in the day when people retired with a company, they didn't talk about layoffs. They didn't talk about going to get another job. They worked with the people they had. And this philosophy of the last 20 to 30 years has changed. So now how do we get back to the point where we're going to help our C students become A students or put them up for adoption. So I think that example really, it reminds me that, okay, yeah, I can't put my daughter up for adoption. I have to help her. So I want to challenge you to really think of what would happen when we think about what is right with people versus what is wrong with people. Because that is another thing. I know some people have worked with people for years. That's just the way they are. But we're not doing that anymore. We're moving forward. So how can you empathize? How can you appreciate that person? And how can you really focus on what they're doing right versus what they're doing wrong? So when we talk about the drivers and the tools that Art is talking about, we really want to be a chameleon. So what does that mean to be a chameleon? What's that? Hide? Excellent. What? Not exactly the answer I was looking for, but it is an answer. So, I can't remember who.
Do what it takes to fit in the current situation.
Do what it takes to fit in, to adapt. When we talk about people, and then Art before talked about the drivers and the environment. There are certain environments that you naturally gravitate and you're successful in, and other ones you're going to feel uncomfortable. As a manager and a leader, creating those environments is important. So for you, you almost have to be a chameleon because you have to create an environment that may be different than the one you naturally hide in. But in order for your employees to thrive, in order for your employees to do and be the best they can be, you have to kind of take that responsibility on. So, really quick. One person from each row, I want you to tell me about yourself. So, I think Marvin, you told us. I don't know if I want to make Calvin do it because that's the intimidating environment again. Kristen. I'm going to make Kristen do it. Tell us about yourself.
I grew up in Philadelphia, and then I always wanted to move to San Francisco, so that's where I went after I graduated from college and studied civil engineering. And kind of got sick of city life, and now I'm here in Hawaii.
Yay! Second row. One person. Tell us about yourself.
Art has a really good history and story.
Different category.
Yeah.
Tell us about yourself, Art.
Me?
Share about your childhood.
I am a military brat, so my dad was a Marine, married in Japanese national. I was born in Virginia, grew up in South Carolina. Moved to Hawaii, lost the southern drawl really fast.
Really?
School year.
Oh.
Because first day of public school, Keolu Elementary School, kid wanted to troll. He wanted to play catch. We troll. You want to play catch? No, we troll. Yeah.
So you learn.
I lost the southern drawl really fast.
Excellent. This row. Willie, you get to tell us about yourself. More intimidating environments. Just one thing, whatever.
Well, I believe that we can change if we believe that change is good, better for us.
Excellent. One. See, I'm not doing it this time, Daryl. I think you are.
No, so I'm on the end of my career to the state. I just hope that we can do this before I leave, because I have some reservations on people that are going to take our place, because as you know, there's a lot of people that are going to be leaving. So hopefully we can implement this before all of us leave.
So that's a sense of urgency.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. One for this entire group. I'm treating you all as the back row. One thing.
You're up, you were talking out through the class.
Okay, Daniel, you're up.
Tell us about yourself.
About myself? That's what you think about his tickets, right? Grew up on the Big Island. Always wanted to come to Honolulu, but I got my chance in '95 when we got the RIF.
Riff. What happened in 95? Where were you? Okay, that's it.
Ready for my
She got the tickets.
Enjoyed being here ever since.
Excellent. Okay. So I don't know if that worked out exactly the way I wanted it to. Good job. Yay, Daniel. Woo! Okay. So everybody has a style, and Art talked about the drivers, and he's going to work with you on the drivers. The other profile that we're looking at is this DISC. And so it is based on task-oriented people versus people-oriented people, and having a slower pace or having a fast pace. It kind of correlates with the hurry-ups and the pleases. So there's a correlation a little bit. This profile that you do, when we roll that out through Art, it'll tell you what your primary is and where you fall in this circle. So it's a DISC circle. So you can see that they're motivated by certain things and repelled by certain things. So again, when we talk about those environments, if you put somebody in an environment where they're not comfortable, say asking them to say something in front of a group, that might be intimidating. For other people, that might be exciting and rewarding. So if you put them in the wrong situation, they're going to feel differently. So, fast-paced, these are the D's. And usually, when these people talk, they will tell you about their accomplishments and their jobs. So I don't know if I heard that from anyone. But this is one way when you say, tell me about yourself, people will start talking about, oh, this is what I do, this is where I've been. I guess I kind of did at the very end. I worked for DOT, I've worked for Federal Highways. You start talking about your jobs and accomplishment. I do have a husband and I do have kids. I always forget about that because I'm always focused on this D part. So these people are kind of bossy. And they need an environment that challenges them. They need choices. They need control. I know I've picked on Ed a little bit through this process as well, but the more I've heard him, the more it's about controlling an environment. It's about DOT controlling their future, not having it controlled by other people. It is about not going with a certain software because 49 other states do it and I want to create what we want. So he wants choices and control. So when you kind of understand that about his personality, then you can understand what his requests are. You know, he's driving from a certain aspect. Now, these are the I's. They're the outgoing people. Usually, they will talk about their likes, about themselves, and maybe tell a story. So Art did that a little bit, but I don't think he's an I. Yeah. So these people like recognition and approval and popularity. They're very, I would say the I that's talking right back there, that's the guy that is the life of the party over there, that we can't keep him stop talking, and he keeps talking because he's telling stories and he's sharing his personal feelings and he's expressing opinions and he likes to have fun. So that's that type of person. So that kind of person needs that an environment with friendly relationships and opportunities to influence others. The S person will usually talk about their family. So this has worked well in other districts because they'll start talking about, I have 2 kids. What I like the balance that a government job offers, because at 4 o'clock I can get home and be with my family. And those are the answers that we got. So it's like, okay, they're an S. What do those guys need? They need security, appreciation, assurance. They want an environment with a work pattern. So they don't want to jump around. They're going to feel frustrated in those kind of environments. And they will ask more questions than state. I did hear Marvin asking questions, but that didn't quite seem to fit him. But they listen more than talk. They reserve their opinions, and they're very harmonious. So they don't want, these guys, it's going to be hard for them to go against a contractor because they want that harmony in their jobs. They don't want conflict. Whereas a D thrives on conflicts. They instigate conflict. They make drama just so that they can deal with it. The C's, now these are our checkers. And these are the ones that point out the spelling mistakes in our presentation or in our memos. These are the guys that will usually ask me, when I say, tell me about yourself, they'll say, what do you want to know? Well, anything. Well, like what? So they'll answer your question with a question. So from just asking somebody, tell me about yourself, it gives you an indication. It's hard in this kind of environment because people will talk about their jobs and what field of this office they are and things like that. But these people need clearly defined tasks, and I would even say to the point they need it in an order. Marshall is like this. So
No, surely not.
Surely, yeah. So it was fun. I think it was on Big Island when Ed was talking, and he was realizing that he's the D and Marshall's the C. And again, it's like, hurry up. Why isn't that done? But then in a C, they need to make sure that there's sufficient time and resources to get a job done. It's not just about throwing out and doing the job. So you can start to see that just in a potential relationship, there's conflict, not because of the issue itself, but because of the process and that people have to go through. So the C's are really going to take their time. They're going to make sure they have all the facts before they make a decision. They're going to finish what they start. They like to have organization and pattern. They like to make sure everything's meticulous, versus the D is just like, hurry up and get it done. Hurry up.
Urgency is
So a lot of times opposites attract, and when you get your profiles, it'll talk about how you relate to an overall population and how certain aspects of, what your environment should be and how you relate to others on your teams. So we'll be rolling that out with Art, and so when we come back in our 101 session, we'll either focus on appreciation or the DISCs. But I wanted to give you a quick introduction so you understand what these profiles are, and then your supervisors can start working with you to empathize and create that environment and relationship, and hopefully see that maybe some of the conflicts that are occurring is not about the issue. It may just be about the style. And so if we can get past the style, we can be more of that proficient team. So I understand my staff to the point that I create the right environment for them to succeed at tasks I have assigned to them. So of course we want that to be yes in the future, and it'll take time to get there. This last thing that I'm going to go through is appreciation. So when you heard Simon talk, it talks about being part of a group where people want to feel that they're valued. Jason, now what happens in the field office stays in the field office, okay? That was my D talking. We'll talk about that later. I had a really good video that went with that too. So now we're appreciating people, Jason. We're changing, all right? We're changing. We're moving forward. I had to actually go through this training, and I'm still going through it. Like Alan said, I was talking about something like, I can't wait. We got to hurry up. I can't wait for them. So 5 appreciation languages. This really talks about how you feel appreciation. So recognition and being up on the stage may make certain people feel really good, and it may terrify other people. So is that effective appreciation or recognition if it doesn't actually hit the mark with people. So as these real life examples show, what makes one person feel appreciated does not make another person feel appreciated. So even when companies have recognition, if it misses the mark, if it speaks a different language or dialect than that person appreciates, the opposite will occur. So when we do the profiles, we want to make sure you understand, and you understand your team, but you understand your employees and your supervisor, so you can give them the most effective appreciation and not necessarily giving them something. A lot of times, like Art said, we'll do what's comfortable for us. Like, what might be one of my appreciation languages? Do you guys know the languages? Okay, we'll get there. Think of that. Just use that as an example. So again, not everybody's here for money. Most people know that they can make more money elsewhere. They're here for other things. So if we can enhance that environment and we can make everybody feel valued, then they're going to want to stay. We want to make sure we retain. Scott mentioned people are ready to retire. What's going to prevent them from retiring? Being part of this guiding coalition, being part of this change, Art leaving a legacy, everybody seeing this through. We've heard that overwhelmingly throughout the state, that people are skeptical, right? We're going through the thing, denial, frustration, but we're all here to make sure this works. So, if you feel appreciated, then you probably feel good about going to work every day. And there were, throughout the state, there were some field offices or project teams that were really, like, not in a good place. There were others that everybody felt like an ohana and a team. And so that's the environment that we want to create. But we want to create that throughout the highways division and not just within that team. And so that's where George is talking about the community as a Wahoo district and realizing that all these people are part of your team. When we go through the change exercise and elevating issues if we get stuck, in some of the exercises we elevated it, role played, all the way up to Ed because he's part of your team. If you can't get something done, make sure you're using Art. Make sure you're using George. Make sure you're using Ed to get the job done. So, what are the appreciation languages? There's a book. It's a different book. So, affirmation. Does everybody know what that is? Affirmation? Quality time, acts of service, gifts. That's hint, gifts. And then physical touch. So I feel like somebody earlier was talking about a group hug. Was there somebody talking about a group hug? Back there. And that was, so are you a touch person?
I am.
Oh, God. So when we do the profiles, you'll be a little more of one, and then there's going to be another one that is your least appreciation language. So we know if we're hanging out with Kaha'a and we need him to sign a change order, what are we going to do? Good, Kaha'a. Thanks, Kaha'a. Thanks a lot. Kaha'a, thank you so much. High five. Thanks, Kaha'a. So we need to appreciate them, right? What was some other ones? I don't have good examples. I do know I am not an affirmation person, so that's something I have to work on, is make sure that I'm affirming people. Good job, Alan, for everything. And the setting up, that was great. Thank you very much. So we have to make sure, and she's actually service. She's not service, but her number 2 is affirmation, which kind of threw me because I didn't know that. So then my least is affirmation. So it's very hard for me. And so there's this weird part when you understand this stuff and then you have to consciously okay, Willie needs me to say he did a good job. So we just did that. So Willie, thank you so much. That was great. So you have to start doing that, right? And I've done that with my staff members. Some of them are affirmation. And then at another job I was at, that they were the touch person. Again, Kristen loves touch. No, she's the least. She cannot stand that. So it's yeah. I think we were talking to her, and I'm like, good job. Forgot. I'm like, is everything okay? That's right.
During the break, I touched it, right?
Yeah. And then you went, she
I
went.
remember from the last class shoot.
Quite different than
So you'll figure out what your languages are, and then we're going to talk about how to appreciate it. And actually the profile does go into, even if you're acts of service, what is going to help you better with the acts of service? Is it staying all night to get that progress payment done and then helping somebody out to do that? Or is it like, good job, progress payment getting done, I'll see you? Because they're not acts of service. So you got to kind of understand that. So when we do the profiles, you'll get more of that. Okay, so this is where we talked about the drivers. Again, these are all tools. It's not an end-all be-all. It's just a tool to help you understand your people. And so one of the questions, I often find ways to appreciate my staff in ways they appreciate and not the ways I'm more comfortable. So I know when we started this, I talked to Blaine. I said, can I give gift cards? And then, of course, he's like, no, you can't do that. That's ethics. So I was like, well, I still feel like I have to give something. So these are delicious juice pulp brownies that you might have, and you, the winner, one winner, will get to take these home with you. Are you excited? Yes! In 10 minutes, we're going to go through some of these basics. Again, during 101, we're probably going to talk about this more, but the main part of today was change management, how to instigate that change, how to go through the cycle, how to appreciate people, how to understand their personalities, and when we roll out the profiles for the DOT staff, that'll help you guys communicate, create that environment for success. What is the thing you say? I create the environment for success, but I cannot guarantee something?
Well, people in position to succeed, but I don't guarantee outcomes because I'm not the implementer.
Right, but we're creating the environment.
Yeah,
Huh? That's good, that's good.
I can use that one.
Is that your role?
You still won't know what I do, right?
He gets a ticket if he tells us. So what we heard from the assessment, so we talked about this, creating the community, because equally as important as some of the obstacles as far as equipment and things was the community that was a little bit frustrating. Again, there were great people at DOT. There are people that are here that are ready to do their job, but they didn't feel like they could. They were in this environment where they were being defeated. So we're hoping that this will be the beginning to creating a different environment. And we're here as your change management support group to make that happen. The other part of it was some basic supervisory training that's available by the state. So I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but it is available. So you can do that in conjunction with what we're talking about. Because there were a lot of people in management, again, that they were there because they were promoted, they did a good job at what they were doing. Now they're leaders and they have to do a good job of taking care of the people that are doing what they were doing. So we're going to talk about this as well, performance reviews, ratings, standards, disciplinary actions, and appreciation, and understanding, and creating that environment. So just educating the staff on how to escalate issues. When we go through some of the exercise, that was a big thing that came up. So in December, we'll talk about how we get not only within our field office, but if we need Art to help, he's not going to do our jobs, he's not going to enable us, but he might need to help. If at our level, our project manager just isn't providing the extra resources we need to get a job done, then we may have to elevate it, and that's okay, because this is a safe environment. Okay, so getting organized. One of the other things, lots of emails, not everybody understanding, not everybody communicating. So we want to make sure not only with Art having the RE meeting, but within your own field office, understanding what the POP is, what the core values are, what the sense of urgency with the pipeline is. Is your project one of those projects? Again, from a project engineer to an inspector, does everybody understand the vision? Have we communicated that? Have we painted the picture of dread and confusion? Or are we clearly articulating what they can do as part of this whole initiative? So these were some of the recommendations, and they are in the assessment. And so you may see Art, you may see George showing up with these things. as technology moves forward with e-construction, even involving people that are in the field through conference calls and consolidating some of those policies and directives and things into a cohesive message. I think one of the other things that we heard, do you guys know what Socrata is? Okay, so that's very good. You're just on it. We don't know what you do, but you're on it. So Socrata is one of those things that we heard as we went through DOT. They're like, oh, we did training on this, everybody knows it. And then when we went to the districts, they don't understand it. So we're going to talk about that when we go through our training and our change module, so how you can use those tools. So consolidating that just so everybody understands. And again, it's about that soccer, it's about the goal, it's about communication. People need to understand how they're part of this. For your monthly meetings, just having the agenda and meeting minutes and always covering safety. So when we roll out, we'll talk about safety. And that's a core value of DOT that's announced today, the core values of safety. So that's why we always want to cover safety. We want everybody to go home safely. And announcements, even if the announcements have nothing to do with work, this is part of what you can do to connect with your people. Did somebody have a baby? Did somebody's son or daughter graduate? You know, what can you celebrate and appreciate in their personal lives? So for a good meeting, I guess the only thing we didn't say was weekly, but I think afterwards, didn't we modify that?
No, because it was like overkill if you did it too often.
But it's up to you. It's only a tool. So anyway, so those are some of the things that are part of a good staff meeting. So posting the information, following up with questions, again, asking more than telling, covering safety announcements, and then being present. So this is something we're working on with Highway C because we haven't decided whether it should be part of POP or part of new e-construction, but basically having a dashboard of not only, I would like to see good things and bad things going on with the project so that it doesn't become this, you know, George said when things aren't going right, we don't always talk about it. So we want to make sure that there is a dashboard so everybody kind of knows if things are behind schedule or if LDs are going to be issued, so that everybody as part of the team can work and support that. Like George said, there's instances, and we've heard it throughout DAGs, throughout DOT, where they've been people's decisions or documentation has been overridden by somebody else because contractor complains, and then it's like, you're going to do this, this, and this. So we're going to talk about that because all of the DEs, everybody has said, we're going to support the process. As long as we have the documentation there, which is what we're going to talk about is documentation, then they're going to support those decisions in the field. This is part of that culture change. So as a supervisor, there are issues I cannot solve on my own. I always discuss with my supervisor to get insight. I'm not afraid to have that discussion, as I know the work environment at DOT is safe to fail, to learn, to grow, succeed. Right? Everybody knows that? Yeah, now you do. Okay. We're working towards it. So in summary, in our circle where we're planning, we're doing, we're checking, we're acting, that continuous improvement, we talked about the why. And starting with the why and the vision, not always the how and the what, the why. Why are we doing this? Communicating that vision, being able to paint the picture, because our cortex, the thing that drives behavior, drives by pictures and not necessarily words. So that's what's going to drive the behavior and help this change occur. Connecting with your team through the tools that we've talked about that you'll be experiencing, the drivers, so you understand on the 2 pages in the handout, it talks about the environment, it talks about things you can do, and then just having some of these basics in place. Again, it's not about emails and pushing out the information, it's about the connection, the community, and creating that environment. And then we'll talk more about evaluation and disciplinary actions and things like that. There were some of those things that came out of the assessment where it sounded like certain behaviors were lingering, and then on the other side there were certain behaviors that were exemplary, that weren't being appreciated. So it was both sides. So we want to explore and talk about that and have a deeper dive on that. So, wait, is that it? Oh, okay, one more question. I look forward to being a vital part of any necessary DOT culture change, creating professional improvements here at the Highways Division. So that's yes, everybody's supposed to say yes. But if you don't feel that way, you can say no, it's anonymous, right? But hopefully, as we go through the process, we want that to move to yes, but please don't lie and do what Alan said just because we have it circled. We want the yes, but it doesn't have to be a yes, okay? So we're going to do post-test, and then lights, camera. Any closing thoughts, Art? See, now you have to say rah-rah, paint the picture, yeah.
I want to thank everyone for attending and just let you know this is like the opening salvo. I mean, the first implementation is when we went to Old Aina, right? That teamwork and stuff. And this is a little bit more technical, but just prepare. This change is coming. I'm 100% behind it, so you know I'll be pushing it, and let's get better. That's the end product. Let's get better. And I don't do I don't dance.
It's just hands, though. You just have to do the hand.
Okay, bye. Lunch.
Or just do the hands.
The Disney way.